if you look at your RPI Hypertrophy app and it says flat dumbbells for 4 sets and then incline for 4, you're like, this is gonna be fucking awesome. I love it. Plug in, warm up, get it, go. Switch, warm up, get it, go, and I'm out. But if I have 4 chest exercises on there for you, you're gonna have to find that new piece of equipment every time. After only 2 sets, you guys, after 2 sets, you're just getting in. You're like, yeah, man, now I was feeling great. You look at your program, you're like, okay, that's it. I guess I have to go warm up for machine flat press. There's an old lady on it. You're gonna have to warm up for a new machine. You're gonna set the fucking rack height, blah, blah, blah. And then just 2 sets later, you're onto your next shit. Why? Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for RP Strength. I have a question for you. Are you using the right number of exercises to get the most muscle growth, or are you using the wrong number of exercises and thus you're gonna die really soon? Luckily, it's not that high stakes, but you may be struggling with your muscle growth. And you may be wondering, does it have something to do with the number of exercises I'm doing? Because I'm not sure about all this muscle growth training crap. And should I be doing 5 exercises for the same muscle every session? Should I just be sticking to squats and only squats for a year, like that one dude said that's kind of fat but kind of jacked? I mean, what the hell is going on here? Let's find out, and let's look at the basic science. Let's look at some good recommendations you guys can use for choosing exercise number, and let's look at some common mistakes so we can learn a little bit from them and not have to make them ourselves. All right, fundamental science, we got 4 ideas here. First is that some muscles, not all, but some muscles with complex multi-joint actions can benefit from more than one angle of attack because they have slightly different functionality. It requires slightly different kinds of exercises to fill in the blanks. For example, quads and hamstrings both work at the knee and at the hip. So if you only do leg presses for quads, you actually never train that middle part of your quad, the rectus femoris, which is cool and pops out. That's only trained if you lean back, lay down, do a sissy squat or a leg extension with that quad and hip already pre-stretched. So if you're only doing presses for your quads, maybe that's not enough to make the most complete muscle growth possible, especially if you plan on competing or something like that. Of course, hamstrings, they cross the knee and the hip. So if you only do leg curls or only do hip hinges, you're missing out on a function and actually activating some decent amount of muscle that the majority of only one movement or the other really does well for that part of the hamstrings. It's a complex muscle. Shoulders. I don't like the term shoulders. I think it's kind of fucking weird because the anterior deltoid and the posterior deltoid, the front and the rear delt, they actually antagonize each other. They're completely opposing. There is not an exercise really that you can do that hits them both. The side delts are altogether really different. And while the front delts get a ton of work from pushing and the side rear delts get a ton of work from pulling and back work, the side delts need to kind of their own approach altogether. So we can't just say like, here's a shoulder exercise for shoulders. We have to think about it a little bit more in depth than that. And of course, back. One does not simply train the back as the ultimate most complex quote unquote muscle group. And it really is a group of muscles at that point. We have at least vertical pulling that needs to be optimized. We have horizontal pulling, including the pro and retraction of scapulae muscles. Lots of thick ass big muscles in the back do that. And if you don't do any kind of rowing, you're going to be missing something. And of course, loaded flexion and extension of the spine, because the spinal erectors are a huge part of the back. And if you just do pull-ups, it's not the whole back that's being trained. So if you're choosing an exercise for the back, you have to think about it a little bit more than just like, whatever, choose any exercise that you want. Point number 2, on the other hand, most muscles don't need more than 1 to 2 exercises per session to get their best work. Why? Most exercises don't have more than kind of 2 ways of doing them, or most muscles don't have more than 2 approaches, exercise design-wise, that they really need in order to really get their best muscle growth in most cases. And most muscles grow best per session. This is something we'll talk about in the series later on, is they usually grow best between 4 and 8 working sets per session. So if you wanted your session for quads to go as well as possible, let's say you have 2 sessions of quads per week, 4 to 8 sets of quadriceps working sets. Forget about warm-ups, those are extra. In any one workout, 4 to 8 sets is really getting close to that sweet spot for most people, which means if you have each exercise taking roughly 4-ish sets at most, well, that's it. That's 2 exercises. But if you're closer to 4, sometimes you might be doing 3, 4, or 5 sets for a muscle at any given time. I'll get to an example of that later. Then maybe just 1 exercise will do just totally fine. So it's 1 to 2 exercises. I'll put it this way, and this is something we'll talk about in a little bit, where it's a folly, a mistake people make. If you're using 4 or 5 exercises for a single muscle in a single session, there's a lot of redundancy there, and that has downsides of its own. Next, related, is that most muscles don't need more than 2 to 4 exercises per week to get their optimal growth. You're going to train most muscles 2 to 4 times per week anyway. That's a good idea. And if they just have different exercises each time, that's cool. It's not mandatory. You can reuse exercises from earlier in the week, later in the week, but I highly encourage you to use a different rep range and potentially even a different exercise order. So if you did leg presses first on Monday, on Thursday, maybe do them a second after squats. And instead of on Monday doing sets of 5 to 10 of the leg press, maybe on Thursday, you do sets of 15 to 20. Very, very different. You want something different almost every time you train within the same week. But week to week to week to week, it's going to be the same, just slightly higher load, maybe some different sets, maybe slightly higher reps. Lastly, in basic science, number 4, you can do more exercises than just 1 or 2 per session or 2 to 4 per week per any given muscle group. You absolutely can, but you have to be aware of the fact that you are reducing your variation. Variation is how many exercises for that muscle do you still have left in your bank that are fresh and ready and you haven't been using them and they're not stale and they're ultra effective. They're some of your best. If you have 5 good exercises for your quads, which at a decent gym with decent equipment is possible, and you use all 5 in 1 week and thus in one several month period, what the hell are you going to use when all of them are stale? They ain't nothing else. You might have to use exercises that you hate that aren't that good and spend several weeks resensitizing the old exercises because you overused them. But if you only use, let's say, 2 to 3 of the exercises at any one point, you can do several months of 2 to 3 exercises, dump all of those that have gotten stale, another several months of 2 to 3 exercises, dump all those that have gotten stale. And guess what? Your old stale exercises, they're feeling fresh and new again because it's been months and months since you've used them again. And that way you can recycle and never have long-term staleness. So yes, we want to use all the exercises we can in our deployment in our arsenal, but we have to be strategic about how we use them, only use them when they're fresh and awesome. And when they get stale, we have to discard them. And if we're using too many exercises, that means we're preparing to be stale and everything. It's kind of like if you just go out to eat and try every kind of different food in your town in one weekend, the next weekend, it's like, what do you want? You're like, I don't know. It's we're going to try everything, huh? Like, yep, we shouldn't have gone out 8 times in one weekend. Even we didn't need to go out. We could have done a couple meals at the same place because there's different stuff on the menu we could have looked, but no, you had to eat at all the restaurants all the time. Now that all the variation, we'll have to wait a few weeks until anything is exciting. The thing is, in restaurants, that's totally fine. You just eat at home for a few weeks. But in working out, you got to have fresh stimulative variants and exercises ready to go every single time you train. And if you just use all of them up in 1 week, you ain't got nothing else to lean on. And that's not good. All right. What do we do for recommendations on that? 3 best recommendations for you guys. You want to choose exercises for the week that cover all main muscle functions and areas in most cases. That means if you're looking at chest exercises, middle/lower chest is usually worked well with flat pressing. You can do dips and stuff too. But there's a distinct clavicular component to the pectoralis, which means you need to do some incline work. In most cases, in the week, you'll choose at least 1 or 2 movements that's flat pressing and at least 1 or 2 movements that's incline pressing to make sure you take care of both of those angles. If you're doing hamstrings, maybe you'll do a hip hinge, stiff legged deadlift, good morning, something like that. And you might do some kind of leg curl just to check both boxes. So for back, you'll do some kind of vertical pulling and probably some kind of horizontal pulling as well. Now, if you're in a fat loss phase, you have to make sure to tick all these general boxes because if you don't train a subsegment of muscle in a fat loss phase, you're going to reduce that muscle size and that's no good. But on maintenance, and especially on a muscle gain phase where you're targeting certain parts of your body, you don't have to train every part of the muscle every week. So for example, if you really need much bigger upper pecs and your lower pecs are pretty good, you can do incline pressing only for 3 months while you gain weight. And because you're gaining weight and incline press stimulates the lower pecs a little bit, you'll get no change in the lower pecs. Mid pecs will grow a little bit. Upper pecs will grow a lot. Say, well, Dr. Mike, you don't have any flat or decline pressing movements in the week. Aren't you going to lose muscle? Not in a muscle gain phase, you won't. With that much nutrient and that much general muscular training happening, not a thing to worry about. So in specialization phases of muscle gain, you don't have to attend to every general part of the muscle that you're training. On a fat loss phase, yeah, you probably do. Number 2, in your training, in most cases, you probably want to use as many distributed compounds as you can. There are 2 types of compound lifts as I've categorized them: focused compounds and distributed compounds. Focused compounds are technically multi-joint lifts, but they're really focused on just one muscle. My best example here is the wide grip bench. Technically it's compound, right? Shoulders and elbows are moving, but really it only hits, or vastly majority hits your pecs and doesn't really hit your triceps much. But a close grip bench is a compound movement. You get movement at the shoulder joint and elbow joint, but the triceps are involved a ton and so are the pecs. So you get a really good measure of both. If you use a lot of distributed compounds, you just don't have to use that many exercises and you get amazing results. Let me ask you a question. What's better, to do 3 sets of chest flies and then 3 sets of tricep pushdowns, or to do 3 sets of close grip bench and leave the gym? I mean, from a time and efficiency and having more exercise variations in the tank for later perspective, distributed compounds are king. Are they king in every situation? No, but most training reasoning should start with them as the core and have good reasons to choose other kinds of compounds, to choose focus compounds in specialization phases, etc., versus distributed compounds. Especially this is the case if you're a beginner and intermediate. As an advanced person, don't worry about all that stuff. You're going to know how to train yourself at that point. Having watched a ton of these videos, definitely you will. Number 3, a lot of questions are, how many exercises should I use per session in any given session? But my best question back to you is, how many sets are you going to need to do for that muscle in the session? Then we choose how many exercises. Exercises you can think of are like plates, dinner plates, and actual sets of exercises are like the meal items. Like if it's just you're stopping by your parents on a Thursday night to say what's up to them, 1 plate of food is totally fine. But if it's Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to need a couple plates because you're not just putting some fucking turkey here and some mashed potatoes here. You're putting the shit sky high on 2 or 3 plates. Put another way, if you have to do 4 sets that session on average, because it's stiff-legged deadlifts for hamstrings, and any more than 5 sets, you just can't feel your legs for a week and a half or something, then yeah, if it's 3, 4, or 5 sets, just program on exercise, stiff-legged deadlifts. That's it. You don't need any more exercises. Why the hell would you? Your stimulus is fully filled with 1 exercise worth of sets. And an exercise worth of sets is about 3 to 5, 3 to 6 sets per exercise. Any more than that, you need another exercise at least. But if you have a muscle group that is very complex, like the back, and requires 12 total sets to execute a good job with, then you might have 3 exercises that you use. Generally at 1 to 3, but usually 1 to 2. Because remember, 4 to 8 sets, unless it's a real complex muscle group like the back, is usually the winning formula. If it's closer to like 4-ish that you're going to be doing during most of the meso, pick 1 exercise for that slot. If you start at 6 sets and work up to 10, pick 2 exercises and you'll be in a really good spot. And if you start from 8 and work up to 12-ish or so, pick 3 exercises. No big deal. No big deal at all. Can you do more than 2 or 3 exercises per session? Yes, totally, 100%. But you're better off doing more sessions at that point. So if you have 16 sets to do in 1 day, you should be doing 2 days a week of 8 instead of 1 day of 16. You're going to get higher quality training because you won't be so tired for the last set of 8 every time. But in addition to that, if you can do a great job training with 2 exercises, you could just do 4. I mean, you can do, instead of doing, let's say, 4 sets of flat dumbbell press and then 4 sets of incline barbell press, you can do 2 sets of flat dumbbell, 2 sets of flat machine, 2 sets of incline barbell, and then 2 sets of cable incline crossovers. Still hitting all the same muscles, but just what I would call sort of needless variation. That's totally fine. It's totally cool to do. But remember, you're taking away good variants and replacing them. You won't be able to use them anytime soon because they'll accumulate staleness. And another much more practical concern is like once you're warmed up on flat dumbbells, you're warmed up. You're grooved in. The movement feels amazing. Keep going. Also, you don't have to fucking move your equipment. If your routine, if you look at your RPI hypertrophy app and it says flat dumbbells for 4 sets and then incline for 4, you're like, this is going to be fucking awesome. I love it. Plug in, warm up, get it, go. Switch, warm up, get it, go, and I'm out. But if I have 4 chest exercises on there for you, you're going to have to find that new piece of equipment every time. After only 2 sets, you guys, after 2 sets, you're just getting in. You're like, yeah, man, I was feeling great. You look at your program, you're like, okay, that's it. I guess I have to go warm up for machine flat press. There's an old lady on it. I told myself I'd stop yelling at old people, but I can't do it. They can't hear well. And also they're old. Who cares? I'm kidding. You're going to have to warm up for a new machine. You're going to set the fucking rack height, blah, blah, blah. And then just 2 sets later, you're onto your next shit. Why? Unless you have your own personal gym and you really want to, burn $100 bills of exercise variation, stick to 1 to 2 exercises per session in most cases, per muscle, sometimes 3 if needed. But 4, 5, or 6 exercises, maybe not a great idea. Common mistakes. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about how to fix them. I can think of 6, but I'm sure there are way more than 6. And I'd love to hear some of your suggestions in the comments. Number 1, some people are insisting that you should only be doing 1 exercise per muscle ever. You want big legs? Squat. People tell you that. You're like, but what else? Like, nope, you're a pussy. Just squat. That's how grandpa did it. That's how dad did it. Right, very well. Now, this is okay per session. If Monday for quads, you only have squats, that's totally fine. But per week, you should attack the situation from a few different exercises, different angles. This is great from fatigue management. Squatting twice is exceptionally fatiguing because you retarget exactly the same weak points in the same ways, multiplying their fatigue accumulation. If you squat one day and leg press the other, the limiting factors are slightly different. The points of irritation are slightly different, and you're just much more sustainable to do two exercises over time than it is to do an exercise the same way multiple days a week, especially as you become intermediate or advanced. That's a big deal. And you can do the same exercise. You can. It's not ideal. But if you insist on doing the same exercise, at least change something. Change the rep range, change the exercise order, maybe even change the cadence. So the ultimate change would be, let's say, squat Monday, squat Thursday. Fine, squat Thursday. Let's say you're in a home gym, in a garage gym. All you have is a rack. It's got to be squat. Okay, fine. But the first squat sets a 5 to 10, normal eccentric control. And squats are done first. The second squat exercise on Thursday is done after sets of dumbbell walking lunges. It's done in the 10 to 15 rep range, and it's done with a slow eccentric and a full pause at the bottom. So it's the same exercise, but it's done differently enough to produce enough of variation to prevent that staleness from accumulating in just a few weeks versus the few months that you want it to. I mean, ideally it would never happen, but ideally my ex-wife would have never left me and I still would have been happy. Oh, shut up, Scott. You don't mean that. She left for you. And then he dumped her. Just another day for daddy, we call it. Yeah. It's like the woman of your life was not good enough for a single hookup with me. Tough. There is no avoiding hard training if you want to grow. But if you want to grow the most, your training needs to be hard and smart. RP Hypertrophy app will make sure you're progressing on track, monitoring and adjusting your workout at all times. So for all that work you're doing, you can be sure you're getting the best results. In any case, point number 2, thinking you have to do all angles and all movements for a single muscle group in every session. This is the ultimate freshman year frat boy workout. You go, you do chest Monday. It's really the only dependable day of the week you make it to training. You'll make some other days maybe. What are you guys going to do? Say it along with me. You do flat bench, you're going to incline bench, you're going to decline bench. Might be just some dumbbell work, right? Also, definitely got to do some dips. And who can finish a session without some cable crossovers and yelling into the mirror? Every angle hit, bro. Every fucking type of fly, every type of press, every type of everything. That is insane levels of redundancy. What the fuck are we doing this for? Come on now. This is getting a little crazy. We can spend a third of the time in the gym, come back several times during the week and get the best results ever. We do not have to go over the top. Absolutely, just categorically not a thing. And I'll get this feedback on my own workouts on post on Instagram regularly on my RP Hypertrophy app. I will do hack squats and so good mornings and then do hack squats and then do a couple sets of walking lunges. And people will comment like, that's it? I'm like, yes, that trains every muscle of the leg insanely robustly and enough for me to have to heal about half a week later to do it again. And they're like, but I feel like that's just 3 exercises. Yes. I can also count. It's good. Count to 3. That's very good. And they usually don't have anything else because they're like, well, okay, but like other people do more exercises. Like, that's okay. Other people might have really good reasons for it, but you got to have some good reasons for it. Don't just do extra shit. It's just waste your time and it burns variation, which we don't want. Do you have to do all the angles per week? So number 3 myth is thinking you have to do all the angles per week. Like, okay, Mike, okay, fine. I don't have to do dips and incline work all in one chest session. But over the week, at some point in my 2 to 4 chest workouts, I have to do lower chest, mid chest, and upper chest. That's not true unless you're fat loss dieting. If you're fat loss dieting, you got to cover all your bases. If you're maintaining, one movement per muscle maintains 90% of the muscle. So goddamn well, you don't have to worry about it. And for muscle gaining, you can just do incline work or just decline work or just upper back work and no mid back work and no rowing or anything like that to emphasize one muscle versus the other. No problem at all. So thinking you have to get every single angle done is true in a fat loss phase. It's not true universally. Number 4, this is a personal pet peeve of mine that I've already sort of hinted at, but this is just like baffling to me. It is the act of doing very low set numbers per exercise, but doing a lot of exercises. And a lot of times, high intensity training people who just haven't thought this through will do this. They'll be like, high volume is bad. You're like, okay. So you do what? And they're like, 1 working set, every single exercise. You're like, oh, I got you. Okay, sweet. So 1 set. That's very low. How many exercises? They're like, well, we do 8 exercises in a day for a muscle. Like, motherfucker, that's 8 working sets. That's not low volume. And A lot of times people do like a top set, down set, or they'll do one set and then they'll move on. And you'll end up having this workout where they do like 5 things for chest. That's so much warm-up time. That's so much transition time. And worst, that's once you've developed the mind-muscle connection and the ability to generate tension exactly with the target muscle after a few working sets, your training partner's like, hey, it's time to switch exercise. You're like, I'm just getting in the groove over here, right? Terrible, terrible analogy. But if you're doing the S word with a consenting adult, that's right, I said it. Scott, are we allowed to say sex?
Yeah.
Hey, imagine you're just finding your fucking great position. So you just found that groove in a position. Like, 15 seconds, you gotta like slide your knee against that pillow and take that other pillow that's up your fucking ass and throw it away from you and rearrange her hips and shit. And you're just 15 seconds later, all right. And she's like, okay, let's switch. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? What are we here to do? Just jump around to different bullshit? Like, if you're shooting a fucking adult film, your pleasure is irrelevant. Yes, just do as many positions as you can. It's great production work. But you're actually trying to enjoy the shit. Once you start feeling the groove, that's where you stay. Same thing with exercise variation. I have no idea. Scott's video guy, have you ever figured out why a lot of top bodybuilders just walk around the gym and do 7 exercises? Is it just sheer boredom?
Yeah, I would say.
Boredom, just looking for novelty. Like, I don't want to do another set of incline. I want to do something else. Gotta hit all the angles. We got 2 myths in one. So don't be that person. Instead of doing a top set and a down set, why don't you try 2 heavy sets in the exercise and then 3 lighter sets? It's going to be a good enough variation on load, and you're going to be ultra connected to that exercise. And 5 work sets later, you might not need to do another exercise. It makes everything simpler and faster and better. Number 5 is the opposite. It still exists, and I promise you will see a resurgence of it pretty goddamn soon. Ultra basics type of shit. Our industry goes through waves, sinusoidal waves of the average person is biased a little bit towards fancy optimal, down to they just had enough of it, blue in the face. And then the average person is biased towards ultra fucking simple, no fucking nonsense. Barbells only, brother. Machines are fucking stupid. Biomechanics is gay. The usual. It just does this all the time. And there is a nuanced happy middle that's really fun that you and I are in, but a lot of people don't happen to be in that part. And they'll do shit like this. You're like, hey, you're training legs? They're like, yep. What you doing? Like, I'm doing 8 sets of squats. And you're like, okay. After what number of sets of squats is the shit so goddamn stale and do you not want to be there anymore? And just your knees and hips hurt at that point. Your pump is going down. They're like 6. Okay. So what are those 2 extra sets for? They're like, it's fucking squats, build fucking legs, brother. You're like, oh, I see. You're like a GPT that was trained on old T-Nation articles. That's all you got. My man. So it would be better in that case to maybe do 4 sets of squats and then 4 sets of leg presses. Generally, myself and my co-authors for our book, The Scientific Principles of Hypertrophy Training, Dr. James Hoffman and Mr. Jared Feather, IFB Pro, we found through our coaching tons of people and ourselves experience and looking a little bit at the data that 5 to 7 sets of an exercise, work sets in a session, is the realistic top end in most cases for stimulus to fatigue ratio. Staleness, acute staleness hits so goddamn hard that on set number 8 or set number 7 of the same exercise, you're like, dude, fuck this. And I've done programs of 10 sets of the same exercise over and over and over and over and over. And they were suboptimal compared to programs where right around the 3 to 6 set of an exercise mark, I cut it off and I go to another exercise. That's just a thing. And it can impact your enjoyment of training, but it can also impact your joints. I've hurt my joints overusing bent rows, overusing stiff-legged deadlifts, overusing squats. I could have just split up the exercise a little bit better. It would have been better for me. And lastly is similar, and it's assuming certain exercises hit the whole muscle where they actually don't. This isn't a huge problem, but it's just something to know. Get your functional anatomy knowledge upscaled a little bit. So for example, people will they'll proudly, I don't know why, to be like, yeah, man, you like my back? And dude, your back's really impressive. Like only pull-ups, like, oh, dopes. So actually your back could be even more impressive if you did rows. They don't know that. They're like, oh, you just need pull-ups, man. Like, nope. There are huge parts of the back that do this, and they don't do this part. Like your rhomboids and your mid traps, they don't pull your arm down. They just pull it back and they pull the scaps back. So this vertical shit, it trains a lot of your back, but not the whole thing. So don't pretend it's the whole thing. I used to train for years squats and presses for my quads, and my rectus femoris is just not very impressive. It's barely there. And I'm now doing lean back leg extensions to expose that muscle, and it's getting sore regularly, and it's awesome. But it took a while for me to even get on board with that because I thought, oh, I just train the whole quad like this. Bullshit. I was missing a whole quad. 1/4 of my quad was missing, and that's not good. And of course, leg curls only for hamstrings. Hip hinging is really important. Trains a bunch of your hamstring that leg curls do train to some extent, but not fully. So yeah, you do want to make sure that you don't oversimplify the shit. And I know this is crazy, right? But there's a group of people that like do 5-6 angles and exercises for everything. There's another group of people that's like, fucking just squat, brother. It's just one. We're in this fucking terrible science place again where it's like 1 to 3, usually 1 to 2, sometimes 3 exercises. That's probably what works best. If you cover all the bases, you're usually good to go. Guys, if you need help picking exercises, the RPA Hypertrophy app can help you do it. There's a link in the description for that if you want to buy things and pay me money. And if you just like the color of my amazing Scott's video guy, what color is this sweatshirt?
Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy. I'll see you guys next time.